non-pro table here, and we get our first look at Shanghai Wang, who's enjoying a massage. It's stressful out there, Daniel.
Certainly is, especially when you're playing long days, having a lot of tough decisions. And he's up against here Andrew Pantling, who will put you to the test. I've played a decent amount with him. Very aggressive and tough to play against.
Feeling sticky with a 6-deuce suited in the big blind as Shanghai attacked from the small. Has his man dominated, going to the flop, which is 7 trade deuce, both players with a piece.
Yeah, you would expect in position, Pantling sees this flop and thinks, all right, well, you know what? My deuce is probably good.
And notice Shanghai did not follow through with top pair, electing to check call as Pantling fired, and now both players pick up a gut shot straight draw on the turn.
Notice how quickly Wang is playing here, and same with Pantling, just firing out those bets. Much different than what you'll see at the pro table.
Second barrel, 24,000 out of Pantling. And the feeling Andrew's got here is that his man raised not in this territory and was just peeling one off.
It's hard, he's having the massage.
Notice how strong Wang's hand is here. He's also got the flush draw, and there you go, the straight flush. Wow, 7 high straight flush, thinking to himself, how do I max out against Pantling, who's just made a straight? And it looks good. Pantling firing 65,000 on the river. Question is, how greedy do you get here with the straight flush? How much will Pantling call?
You have the whole wide world, and obviously Shanghai just praying that somehow Pantling has hearts as well. But a straight, certainly enough for him to call. And what's the number? 150.
Very small raise.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough for Pantling to get away from. I don't see a fold here. I mean, your hand's too strong to just fold with the 6 high straight. A single ace makes a 5 high straight.
And by the way, a single ace very much feels like it could be in Shanghai's range here. You wonder whether or not Pantling might do something heroic by playing back at him.
If Pantling's never played against, you know, Wang in this situation, he might not know of how good or bad he is and whether he thinks an ace is good. Very confusing sometimes to play against players who are unorthodox. You can see Pantling really deliberating now, thinking, what is going on here? How do you play this hand this way where you check call the turn and now you're check raising me? Doesn't add up. But it will.
Oh, a straight flush. As Pantling understandably pays off, and a nice pot heading Shanghai's way. One of the newer phenomenons associated with quasi-live broadcasts of events, Daniel, has been the advent of the coaching rail, where 30 minutes after it happens, all the information is available through a stream, and you can in real time get the answers to your questions out there.
Yeah, especially for this event, it's super interesting and cool because obviously the non-pro invited a pro.
Sure.
So there's almost an implicit like, well, you know, you're going to coach me a little bit here, right? Like, otherwise I wouldn't have invited you. So as you can see, they seem to have a good rapport, but I also found it interesting. It's almost as though Elke's playing guru, like, keeping him calm rather than worrying about the strategy so much.
Well, Ivan Liao looking to keep calm here as he takes a 10-7 suited up against an ace-king. Not a good flop for him. King 6-4 as he checks to Webster, who bets 30,000. Ivan has 7.5 million and 5 wins on his resume in the last 18 months alone. And perhaps courtesy of moves like this, as he has check raised to 85,000 with a whole lot of nothing.
Well, this one's not going to work. I'm just telling you right now. I understand the thought process. He wants to be aggressive. Obviously, if his opponent doesn't have a king, he might get this through. But once he's called, I would hope that Ivan, realizes that, this could be a problematic situation. But now, hello, he's got an open-ended straight draw.
2 ways, a 5 or a 9 will hit him.
Might allow him to continue, but I just don't see how he's going to get this through. It's just, Chinwei Lim has just too strong a hand to get away from. He's got to be a little worried, though. He could be up against a set of 6s, set of 4s, aces even.
Oh, and the 7 of hearts on the end is actually the kind of card that just might get it done.
Now Ivan's got to decide, okay, so I made a pair, but you know what? It's never the best hand. So essentially, it didn't really help me. It's pretty obvious that my opponent has a better hand than just a 7. So he's turning this into a bluff. He doesn't think, he's not value betting here.
But look at the board texture. 4 to a straight out there, and backdoor hearts have come in. and you're facing a check raise and 2 additional barrels with just 1 pair.
Wow! Amazing bluff there from Ivan to get it through. The board ran out perfect for him to run that bluff, and
Jack 8 suited and is showing his creative side.
Yeah, reasonable holding in late position. Certainly going to want to open there. Push the envelope a little bit.
Trickett, ace jack.
It's definitely a hand you're going to play. The question is, do you flat, see a flop, or do you want to 3-bet? Knowing that Chidwick opens pretty wide in this situation, you can obviously make an argument for 3-betting. But flatting isn't bad either. Yeah, Trickett's going to play it safe, out of position, doesn't want to bloat the pot just yet. It's going to bring Kenny along. For a min raise, this is what you'll notice. Pros are going to defend their big blind. So if you are min raising, understand that, you know, a guy like Bryn is going to want to see a flop, and he's going to make good decisions post flop for sure.
So Trickett dominates Chidwick, who in turn dominates Kenny, heading to the 7-4 tray all club flop, which is all Chidwick. He has flopped the flush, but Trickett does have the nut flush redraw.
And Kenny also is going to be involved here with a gut shot straight flush draw. I'll check this flop.
Trickett does have the nut flush draw, but instead hits a jack on the turn.
Well, this is big trouble for Trickett. He has the nut flush draw. He's also got top pair. He elects to check. Really interesting. Wow. Well, I mean, now Chidwick is going to have to bet. You know, he checked the flop, under-repping his hand. He's going to want to bet here. What is happening in this hand? Nobody wants to bet, and they all have pretty decent spots where they could bet.
Now the pair on the board means that that jack-high flush is no longer as safe as it once was.
It's pretty safe considering the way the hand is played. You shouldn't worry too much about it.
For sure.
And if you're Trickett here, you're thinking, well, you know, I want to get some value here. I've got the best hand, high percentage of the time. With a jack, I have the ace of clubs, so nobody's going to raise me with the nut flush because they can't have that. Now, question, what is Bryn thinking about here? Creative player. Look, he's not calling with 8 high. Bryn is trying to represent strong and raises big. Wow. So all of a sudden, Chidwick went from feeling really good about this hand to slow playing himself into a tough decision.
These are the perils of taking these sorts of lines as he checked back to close the action on 2 streets, and his hand is so under-rep that he decides he must call. And this call from Chidwick is just so strong, is it not, Daniel?
Yeah, you know, it's a great call. Obviously, it's you got to make this call. The question now for Sam Trickett is, can you call when it's been raised and called in front of you? You know, the jack's probably not good anymore. Bryn could easily have a hand like 7-4, 7-3 for a full house, jack-7 even. So for Sam here, you know, can find a way to possibly get away. But again, playing against high-level players, you never know.
All in.
What? Unbelievable. What is happening right now?
I don't think anything's happened in this hand that I would have predicted.
Unbelievable. Trickett deciding to turn his hand into a bluff. He's not doing this because he thinks his jack is good.
And as strong as Chidwick flatting Kenny's raise is, how much stronger is Trickett moving all in over the top of it?
Absolutely. Now, if you're Chidwick, you have to ask yourself, well, whoa, this is a very, very strong play. And he's going to lay it down. This is going to get through. That was unbelievable for Trickett to recognize the situation. He blocked the jack, which means it's unlikely that someone had jacks full so he could get it through.
And he blocked the ace of clubs.
Yeah, what is he representing? That was unbelievable. Incredible.
Sexy. Which is not the feeling I'm getting from Jungle Man right now, who's down to just 102,000. He does have 2 kings against an 8-6, which was good on the flop, but here on the turn, disaster has struck as the 7 of diamonds, giving Hing Yang Chow the nuts and leaving Kate's drawing dead. Jungle betting 25,000.
Oh boy.
Now Chow asking for the rest.
You know, even though he's only got 77,000, there's a spot he could get away because the ace is there. Frustrating to do, but this might be a spot where Cates could just hang on to that. No, he says, screw it. I'm going to call and hope it's good.
And I hate to break it to that massage therapist, but this one's over. We're going to wrap it up early here, dear. Yeah. I just lost £1 million, so if you stop touching me. To 27,000.
It's a strong hand, ace-queen suited. Now Kurganov in position in the cutoff. With ace-9, he just elects to call and see a flop with it.
Of all the patches that Igor Kurganov is wearing with his array of sponsors. How is a shampoo company not on the list?
You would think, right?
That fabulous mane.
Uh-oh. We've got problems here for Wu. Wu's flop, top pair ace kicker. And he's up against a hidden set of sevens from Dan Smith, who called out of the small blind.
Zesty, queen 7 deuce, 2-heart flop.
It's the dream scenario for Dan Smith. He's up against the kind of hand that can't get away on the flop.
Does he do his work here and now?
170,000.
Sure seems that way.
Yeah, he looks like he wants to get it in now. Hoping his opponent has a hand strong enough that he can't get away, and we see now that Wu does.
125 more for him to call. Oh my goodness, he just lays it down?
Wow, that is unbelievable. That is a non-pro. That is incredible poker.
Now a look at Triton Series co-founder Paul Pua, who has a monster draw on the Queen Jack 7 2-heart board, holding King 10 of hearts against bottom set and slams it all in there.
That's fun. Yeah. He's having fun with a short stack there and a hand that obviously, you know, he's going to be happy to get in with there with a set.
What's that?
So Vivek shows bottom set a highly vulnerable holding in this spot.
Yeah, usually you get in with a set here, you think you're in much better shape than that, but uh-oh, there you go. Straight on the turn.
Paul needs to make sure the board doesn't pair, and the 9 of hearts on the end improves him to a flush, but improves Vivek to 7s full, and that's all she wrote for Paul Pua. Mar on the button here. Life doesn't get a whole lot better than this.
Well, especially on the button, as you said. When you raise under the gun, people typically give you a better holding. They think you have a strong hand. But on the button, everyone knows, well, you're raising with a lot, so you might get 3-bet by some weaker hands, as we see Ivan Lau with King 8 offsuit. Bad timing here for Ivan up against aces.
But how will Rajkumar proceed? Because he understands that some of the time, this 3-bet is just Ivan placing the open under suspicion. And I like this flat.
I do, especially against a player like Ivan Lau, who we know is capable of bluffing. He's flopped a little something now. He's flopped a really strong hand, actually, a pair of 8s.
Catastrophic board texture for the King 8.
And on his stack size, he's got 630, pots 430. You imagine chips are going to get in. Hard for Ivan to put Vivek on an overpair since he didn't re-raise all in before the flop. So if I was sitting there with Ivan's hand, I'd think my King 8 is good.
100% as we see Vivek just call another 380 into the middle. The board pairs. King 8 looks great here.
Yeah, well, so do aces. You know, that deuce is a good card for Vivek. You know, he doesn't have much to worry about, just hoping that Ivan sticks it in and he can just snap call.
And that deuce does protect the aces from losing to kings and 8s, potentially.
Interesting that Ivan's just betting about half his stack.
Call.
And Vivek just calling, so we're getting a lot of bets out of these short stacks in terms of number of streets he can bet. Now with a king, it's just perfect. He's thinking, all right, kings and 8s, let's go. Nope, not good enough. Aces and deuces. Wow. Ay-ya is right.
Nothing I do.
Nothing you could do. Well, I mean, you didn't have to 3-bet, but once you did, and that flop texture and turn and river hit, I think a lot of people underestimate how much hard work is put into play at the highest levels, not only at the table, and not only in terms of like learning how to play poker better, but you heard Dan Smith mention meditation and all these other practices. Jason Kuhn, physically fit, eating healthy. Bryn Kenny, taking pills and stuff like that. You got a wide spectrum of preparation tactics amongst the pros, but they're all taking it very seriously.
So if you're running bad, just put down the bacon cheeseburger.
Okay.
9-5 tray, 2 diamonds. Big Al's flopped himself a king-high flush draw against an overpair, and we could see some fireworks here.
Well, what we've seen so far from Big Al when he has a draw is he's willing to put chips in the middle. You know, Putra's got an overpair. He's more than willing to get it in on this flop. But this time Big Al elects to just call and try to hit it.
Well, he does pick up added equity courtesy of an open ender on the turn.
Yeah, he can catch a king. That would work. A diamond, deuce, or a 7.
A lot of outs.
Putra still got to feel good about having the overpair. He's targeting DeCarlos, hoping he has something like 9-10, 9-jack. Wants to get value from a hand like that. 325 is the bet. Big Al's, of course, going to call with this monster draw he's got.
Over $1 million chip pot, and on the river, Big Al gets there while Putra hits top set.
Yes, he gets there and gets there in a big way. Putra, it's going to be difficult for him to get off of 3 queens. 500K is the bet. Putra's like, wow, I just made 3 queens, but I'm not so sure I'm happy about it.
You know, I think Big Al choosing to lead out here is going to cost Ferdinand less than it might have had Big Al checked.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. You know, you get check raised there by Big Al. You got to think it's a flush.
Oh, my goodness. Ferdinand mucked.
Unbelievable discipline there from Ferdinand to fold after making a set on the river, really understanding that Big Al has got a flush.
With a couple of 8s under the gun. Makes it 90 to go, and 2 10s for Aaron Zhang. He's got those 8s in a bad way.
Well, he elects to just call from under the gun +1.
I'd imagine there are occasions on which Zhang would choose to 3-bet for balance.
Wow.
Ace-queen into the muck.
That is incredible. You know, notice that's likely based on the position the raises came from, an under the gun raise and a flat. He decided to fold ace-queen. That's really surprising, I got to say.
Perkins on the button with the 2 6s will go set mining with the 3rd worst pair pre-flop. Another ace-queen out of the big blind for Tony G. A very different proposition, of course.
I call.
He's just going to call. That could have been a squeeze opportunity for Tony G to just rip it in there and pick up what's there. Elects to see a flop first.
Uh-oh.
Wow, this is not supposed to happen as often as we've seen so far in this event. The cooler of all coolers, top set against middle set. Danny Tang is in big trouble.
And he is slow playing this thing. No continuation bet.
Aaron, with you know, it's a draw-heavy board. There's straights and flushes, so Aaron can represent a lot of hands here that don't have to be as strong as 3 10s. Betting here to build the pot. Will Danny Tang spring the trap? He's trapping now. It's important to note that. He might have the worst hand, but he doesn't know that, and he thinks he's setting up Aaron Zhang for a big check raise on the turn.
Flat call, now an ace.
That's an interesting card. Danny's going to check. Now for Zhang, he's going to think about the situation where he may be up against some sort of combo draw and want to really push the envelope. He's got all the 10s, so it's unlikely Danny Tang has a 10. May have an ace, and if he does, the trap has been sprung. If he knew he had 3 8s, we just get it all in and move on to the next hand.
But how much can he extract from an ace, which certainly is the type of holding that Danny could have here, having raised pre and then check called on the flop.
Certainly could have a hand even like ace jack, ace queen of spades.
720 in there. And he comes with 290.
Okay, he gives him a decent price. Danny Tang now, this would be a good spot to go ahead and raise, and he does. He's moving all in as expected. Quick call.
Rip City and a snap call. Disaster written all over Danny's face.
Just incredible here for Danny Tang to flop middle set and be behind the 3 10s of Aaron Zhang.
Both players fill up on the end. Just like that, all of the Tang bucks, the action has since slid into second. Non-pros remaining in the field include Bill Perkins and Aaron Zhang. And of course on the pro side, Dan Smith, who raises to $500,000 to kick off the action today. Blinds at 125 and 250K. Vivek Rajkumar on the button with a suited connector.
Well, a bit of a rocky start for Vivek Rajkumar at the outset of this final table. Was lucky enough to eliminate Timothy Adams when his ace-10 cracked the kings. So he's doing just fine with 13 million and is going to make the call with a nice hand. 9-10 suited. So pretty.
Heads up to the flop, a 10 in the window, followed by a 9 and a 4 as Rajkumar way out in front of the 2 jacks.
That's very pretty now.
1 million.
Dan Smith firing 1 million.
Vivek certainly happy to be facing a bet. Now he's just thinking about the best way to maximize. How do I trap my opponent here now that I've flopped top 2 pair? Do I just flat call now or spring the raise?
He does have backdoor hearts. but the 2-pair should be more than good enough.
He's going to raise enough to put Dan Smith to a decision where essentially he's got to decide, is this it? Is this the hand we're going for?
All in.
The answer is yes, Daniel. As Smith says all in, a snap call from Vivek. And Dan will look
Pretty doable.
at the bad news.
Plenty of outs here for Dan Smith. He can catch runner straights,
That's not the
2-pair.
one I wanted.
Needs a 3 or a 4 or a jack to stay alive.
And there it is.
Wow. Things just not going Vivek's way for most of this final table.
Booyakasha.
New chip leader, Dan Smith, with the catch of the jack on the river. Wow.
My goodness.